Welcome to Bear Archery's Hunting 101 podcast, where hunters new and old come to learn and find inspiration from stories of hunts gone by. Everyone is welcome to enjoy the outdoor way of life, and there is no better time to start than right now. So let's head into the great outdoors with your host, Dylan Ray.
All right, guys, welcome to Bear Archery's Hunting 101 podcast. I'm joined by Shane Mowery, a.k.a. the Bone Maniac. Shane, how are you, man?
Man, I'm doing great today, Dylan. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It is an honor to have you on, man. I'm glad you joined us today. You are just now getting back from a hunt, and so quite the busy man. Quite kind of hard to nail down at times, man.
Yeah, life seems to be on the road a good bit. Try to get the wife and the kids to join me on these travels across the states and whatnot. And it's always good to bring those
Now,
little guys in.
Where are you joining us from right now?
So I'm actually in Virginia right now. We decided to come in and have a few hunts out back east for some whitetail, a sika, and possibly a bear if we can make it all work. But we're at our in-laws, and we decided that we just try to hang out, do some hunts, and spend the holidays here. It's a little nicer weather here than Idaho right now.
Yeah, I bet, man. You're one of those. You're one of those guys that, as I watch on social media, I'm just like, man, I want to go hunting with the guy because it seems like if he's hunting, he's always killing. So it's like this is the kind of guy I need to go on a hunt with.
A lot of guys ask that. They're like, "Hey, can I come out and hunt?" And I'm like, "Well, I can hook you up with an outfitter, or I can put you in contact with some guys." But they're like, "You don't spend much time in the woods," and Dylan, it is I kind of try to make that a habit because I do my homework before I head in, and I don't like spending a lot of times in the backcountry or in the woods or in the wilderness or public land or wherever I'm at. I've always said that the reason for my success of hunting is, man, I study what I'm doing beforehand, and I try to make it happen quick. So it doesn't always go that way, and it almost didn't go this way on the sika hunt. So, but
well, and that's just a testament. That's just a testament, and that's proof that your hunt starts long before you ever get to the woods, man. And that's why, I mean, if you've listened to the show, you've heard me talk about onyx and studying onyx and the lay of the land before I ever even get boots on the ground somewhere, and that's exactly why. Because it sets you up for success before you ever even get boots on the ground, before you even hop out of the truck, man. It sets you up for success. Before we get too far into this, because I can already tell I'm ready to dive in with you, man. Give us a quick,
you bet.
Give us a quick introduction to yourself, man. What all you do, what all Bone Maniacs does. I shouldn't say you are Bone Maniacs, but
Yeah.
kind of how you got to where you're at, man.
Yeah, some folks ask because a lot of guys, and hopefully I'm not stepping on anybody's toes, but a lot of the guys in the industry started off, or they started off with money, or they had a lot of financial backing, or something like that through the, to make it all work years ago, and I grew up, building log homes with my dad and whatnot, and traveling across this land and being introduced to a lot of people, outfitters and whatnot. And we've done a lot of stuff with guys building lodges and stuff. And one day I'm not going to mention any names. It's neither here nor there at that point. But a guy's like, "Hey, why don't you film your hunts?" And I'm like, "Man, I don't even know how to run a camera, let alone, try to film me shoot it, because
Yeah.
I've always been, from an early age, my dad introduced me to archery, and that's my preferred method. But I'm not against shooting with a gun, especially if I'm defeated. But
Yeah.
you know, that's kind of where I got to start. It was through building. I don't even touch chainsaw or anything else anymore. But and I'm like, hey, it's the craziness of being a maniac and Bone. It all just came together, and my wife and I, it's like, well, what is this? And it just all came together, man. And now here it is, into 4 seasons, and I feel like I've weathered the storm a little bit. By no means is this, financial happiness or anything like that, of what we're doing, but we're getting there, and we make it all work.
Now, where can people watch Bone Maniac? Where can they follow you at?
So we're on Waypoint TV, and got word with Greg Hill and those guys over there that they like what we're producing and what we've sent out there, and we've been prepping everything for Amazon Prime ready. So we're gonna probably release something here, hopefully the first of the year, through Amazon Prime. We'll have Bone Maniacs on that, and I don't know where the S come from, but because it is me, we did have a few staff, but it works better just being the lone guy, making sure that we provide content that's needed for our partners. Yeah, that's we have some things up on YouTube.
Speaking of partners, man, you are brand new to Bear Archery, so welcome aboard, man. I remember when I
Yeah,
saw you come on, when I saw you post your announcement, I texted the marketing director over at Bear, and I was like, dude, we got Bone Maniacs. It's awesome, man. I've enjoyed watching him for a while. So, welcome to the team,
yeah.
man. I'm personally glad to have you on, and I know that all of us at Bear Archery are glad to have you on.
Yeah, it's wonderful to be, and this is where I say it too. Is it's wonderful to be home. I started off with a bear archery. Killed my first deer with a bear cub. I still have that bow, and it's just one of those things of bear archery. It's back to the roots of just my style of hunting, what bear archery believes in, and I think everyone that shoots and supports bear archery believes in as well, and that's just happy. It's just it's just a sense of satisfaction that you're amongst a group of outdoorsmen that think alike, and I'm
Absolutely.
happy. I'm just happy to be where I'm at, and that's all I can say, man. It's like I've been stoked.
Yeah.
I've been throwing arrows, man. I've been sending it, as they say.
Yeah. No, man, you're not. You're absolutely not wrong, and some people haven't found that yet, but
No.
and don't get me wrong, man. I love bare bows. I love the performance. The Redemption EKO. I have fallen absolutely stinking in love with. I love my Grizzly, but it's so much more than just good bows. It's a family. It's a mentality of sorts almost. I mean, I love that whole the Fred Bear way. I love that bear archery is almost a sort of a mentality that we have, not necessarily just a bow that we shoot. And so I 100% understand what you're saying, man. I just love the company. I love what they stand for. I love what they represent. I love how they carry themselves. Uh, and there's no better, in my opinion, there's no better in the industry.
I agree 100%. And Fred was a maniac. So
Yeah, yeah.
and we
So it's
we
fitting
share
for you,
those
man. It's
things.
fitting to have you on.
100%. And and you've said it too right there. Everyone that's in with bear archery, they're just a joy to work with, and they understand, like you said, a lot of people haven't found that. Man, it's taken me a lot of years, because like if I'm out, and I've put down several elk through my time, and I shoot the first one that I call in. That's a trophy for me, because I just felt like I just beat that animal. And if you're back 4 or 5 miles in the backcountry and you got to pack it out, and it takes you a couple days to get it out, and I've been in that situation more than once. That is a trophy, and I think a lot of my point getting being is the hunt is the trophy anymore, and I think a lot of people forget that that's what hunting's all about. And I think with bear archery, those fundamental roots need to be inlaid in the minds of everybody right now, instead of just they see the people that can put down these Boone and Crockett animals year after year. Well, they have the resources to do it. Not everyone can do that, and I'm not saying that those guys aren't just as how do I want to say it? Those Boone and Crockett animals are just as much as a trophy to me as I'm out there shooting a management animal or an animal that I just called in and I just beat. And I prefer spot and stock and over anything. If I'm able to accomplish that, and with any animal, I feel like I just beat it in its bedroom, and that's a trophy in itself. And I think that's the roots where we all need to get back to, and understanding that, hey, field to table, man. I'm happy. I'm making Sika jerky right now. So,
Man, shout out to my processor, man. I dropped my meat off to him, and he said, "Hey, we're doing 2 new things this year. We're doing where we combine bacon with your ground venison," and I'm like, "Yes, sign me up there." But then he also said we got deer sticks, and it's basically a Slim Jim that you can have pepper jack cheese in or cheddar cheese in, and I'm like, "Yes, sign me up for that." And I literally on my desk right now have 2 of those venison sticks. That's what I'm eating on because they are phenomenal.
Well, I tell you, anything that you add bacon to, I mean, it might be a heart attack eventually, but it is good. There's no doubt about it.
Bingo. It might be a heart attack eventually, but I'm going to enjoy it right now. That's exactly what it's all about.
100%. 100%.
Before we jump in, man, I ain't even got done with my intro yet. Before we jump in, man, I need to give a huge shout out to some of our friends over at Minus 33 Merino Wool. They were part of our giveaway recently, and I can promise you that the winner of that giveaway is going to be incredibly happy, because they make some of the finest merino wool on planet Earth, and I couldn't be happier. I wear it almost every day now. I did a challenge where I wore nothing but merino wool socks and underwear for 30 days. And basically I have just continued that on now, going on for like 4 months. It's all I wear is Minus 33 socks and underwear, because they're just fantastic. So go check out Minus 33 Merino Wool. Now, you recently just went on a hunt, man. Tell me about that.
Which one?
Recently, I mean, as in like Friday, I think, is when you harvested, right? No, or Saturday.
Yeah.
No, it was Friday.
It was Friday. Yeah, it was Friday. And yeah, I mean, I'll keep it kind of vague. We were planning this, and what the hell? I'll name drop a couple. There's a couple of places where we were heading to, and Steve, the big name Steve, was there, and I didn't mention to the guys who I was, and which I'm nobody. I'm just put on my pants just like anybody else. But I said I'm coming from the PNW, and I said I've never taken one, but I've it's been on my to-do list for several years now. And I said, I never really had any interest of shooting one with a rifle or anything like this. And I've always been told that, you can't hunt them. They're too hard. You can't do this. You can't do that. And so got a hold of a few folks, just last minute thing. Cause, we were actually building our place back in Idaho, and we had sold our place and whatnot. And we were building on our new ranch up north, and we're like, jeez, it's middle of winter. Let's go spend family with the in-laws back east here with my wife, and I said, well, geez, I'm gonna make this work. I'm gonna have a couple hunts. I mean, I'm in Mecca of whitetail. There's more whitetail here than I think there are people. But anyway, I'm like,
yeah,
hey, we're gonna be close.
Yeah.
I'm like, asked my father-in-law, how close are we from the Eastern Shore, because he grew up in the Eastern Shore. And I said, how close are we? I was like, send me some contacts and this and that. And I had a couple other contacts I was wanting to call anyway, in which, like I was saying, Steve had hunted at this place, and I'm like, hey, yeah, let's see if we can't make it work. Long story short, the guy ended up finding out, and he was like, no, now the price done went up, and I'm thinking, you've got to be kidding me. This is the point that we've just talked about earlier. It's like, well, it doesn't matter who I am or what it is. It's like, we've done settle on a price, and now do you think that now you're going to get more publicity off of me being there or filming it? And it's, you're going to get publicity no matter what. But I don't want that to ever be I don't like money being involved or tainting the sport, if that makes sense, and any more than what it already is. And he done jacked the price up, and I was like, nope. This is where I call it quits. I have nothing to do with this anymore. I had a backup plan, and just by luck, I ran into a friend, and I'm not going to mention his name, just because of the privacy of where it's at and things like that, and like, yeah, come on by, we can give it a shot. No guarantees. And I'm dumbfounded. Had no idea what to hunt or how to do it. Whereas I was going to a place that, had tree stands available, and of course I think there was a big thing for them to feed them. And I'm like, I don't care what we do, just let me come down and hunt. And I want to stay until I kill one. That's how I hunt. My wife is called search and rescue in Idaho. Many a times I go in, and I'm like, look, you know how I am. If I'm not home in a couple of days, then there's a reason. I've ran into a problem. That problem is I haven't killed it yet. So, that's usually my mentality. I'm going there for a job, and I feel like if I'm not there to get it done, then I failed, and I don't like that way. So anyway, this was like, I already felt like I've already been defeated. So we go in, not anything, and I'm like, all right, well, spot and stock's the way it's going to have to be because I'm not set up for a tree stand. I didn't even bring a tree stand with me or anything of that. And just by chance, this was a toad that I shot, and and I'm not afraid to say, it's like I jumped him up, and just instant reflexes, I shot, and I hit him in the hind quarter, and I didn't lead him enough. And I'm not by any means Byron Ferguson or Howard Hill behind the recurve. Okay, so, but it was a devastating blow. He ran 20 yards and fell over dead. I mean, it was just, the femoral artery was done. Especially with the F4s, those, and for folks that don't know, the F4 with that two blade with a bleeder, that is a phenomenal head. I've taken a couple animals with it so far, and I have had nothing but the utmost respect for that head. But that was the hunt. I mean, I think I can't play anything into that hunt other than it was pure luck. So,
Hey,
that's,
but
but I'll take it.
sometimes that's all you need, man. And I recently had a conversation with a guy, and that's what we talked about was hunting is the only sport in the world in which sometimes it just comes down to luck. I mean, if you look at a football game, somebody made a mistake to get you to where they're at. I mean, no football team ever plays the perfect game and still loses.
Ever.
You know what I mean? There's always a flag. There's always a fumble. There's always an interception. There's always a stepped out of bounds. There's always something. Hunting is the only sport in the history of the world that you can lose by sheer dumb luck, or that you can win by sheer dumb luck. And we as hunters, when it happens, we just got to play into it, man. I mean, I promise you, if I get unlucky, I'm bummed, but I say it. I mean, I hunted the best I could. I hunted the perfect wind. I hunted the perfect cold front, but deer just weren't moving, and there's nothing I could do about it. Or vice versa. If I have a deer, all the conditions were wrong, but a deer come in and I shot it, I'll tell you, I was stupidly in the wrong tree stand, but it came together and I got lucky. It's the only sport in the world, and that's the frustrating part about it sometimes, but that's also just the make you laugh about it. I mean, literally, get this, Shane, 2 times in 1 week. I was hunting a property and I had 2 shooters on that property. And in a 4-day span, I had both shooters within 100 yards and they just wouldn't do it. One time,
Wow.
one of them got to 40 yards and hung up behind a tree. One of them got to 52 yards and got on a hot doe and bolted with her. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. But that's the comical part. You just got to sit back and think, this is hunting. That's why I do it, because it's frustrating and it sucks sometimes. But then when it all comes together, Lord have mercy, it was worth it.
It does. I have to agree, and and this was completely out of character on how I go into hunting or go into hunting any animal that I'm about to take. But I was like, I came here for that reason. I came here not that I come here for just for that animal, but while I was here, that was one animal in particular that I wanted. I've never hunted one before. I've never been able to. Never. Well, I won't say I never had the opportunity. It's it's a 3,400 mile trek for me. And I don't fly. I don't like to fly. I don't like flying at all.
Preach on it. Me neither, brother. Me neither, man. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you, and most people that listen to this know this, but my job, what I actually get paid money for, is I'm the marketing director for Pope and Young, and they said, hey Dylan, we're gonna book your flight for Dallas, for the Dallas Safari Show, and I'm like, dude, Dallas is 4 hours from me. I'm not stinking flying. I'm like, I'll drive that 10 times in a day. Well, I couldn't do that, but you get what I'm saying. I'll drive that 100 times before I fly. I went to, same with you. I drove all the way to Maine on a hunt this year, and that was, I think, 2,700 miles one way, and I'm like, but why would I want to drive, or why would I want to fly? If I don't drive, I don't get to drive across New York and see all that. I don't get to drive across, Indiana. I don't get to drive and see all these pretty states that I love to see, man. If I'm going down to Florida, I get to drive through beautiful Mississippi and Georgia, and I always drive around Oklahoma. I never drive through Oklahoma. I always drive around it, but I'm just kidding. But I just love driving, man. Same with you. And I did the math one time. One time I was going somewhere with somebody else. They were flying. I was driving. It took me 12 hours to drive. And they were laughing at me. Why would you drive? This is dumb. Let's fly together. And I'm like, no, you go ahead and fly. We get there, and he was like, how long did it take you, man? All laughing and giggling. He's like, I'm like, 12 hours. How long did it take you? He said, dude, it only took me an hour and a half. I'm like, no. The flight was an hour and a half. How long did you have to check your bags in? How long was the layover? How long was this? How long was that? How long was this? And we added it up, and it was like 10 hours. And I'm like, okay, so I spent 2 more hours traveling than you did. And he's like, well, hey, that kind of makes sense.
Well, it does. By the time you do the math with layovers, and you don't see the scenery, and I don't know, the claustrophobic, and it's just, I don't know. I guess just way society is, and the way life is anymore. Just I don't feel. I hate flying. Now, if I was flying, if I was driving a plane myself, then that'd be a different story. But
no, I don't mind the actual flying. I don't mind the flying aspect of it. I enjoy the flight part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the airports, the crowds, the running around. Like one time I had a layover in stinking Indianapolis, and that place is bigger than the town I live in. The airport's bigger than the town I live in, and there's 50,000 people in the airport alone. And they're running around, and you have to run 7 miles before you get to the next gate or whatever. And I'm just like, this is stupid. Just let me drive.
100%. I agree 100%.
Now, we got off topic there, man. But no, that's fine. Tell me about. You said you enjoy spotting and stalking, which I appreciate. Have you ever tried to spot and stalk whitetail?
I have, and I think the reason with like this success here with this stag was it was raining, so I felt like I had the upper hand in this situation because one of his senses was Yeah, one of his senses was. Now I feel like I'm almost on an even playing game, except for eyesight and for smell. But with the rain, his sense of smell is. I mean, I'm really going to have to be up close and downwind. I mean, everything just played out right. Whitetail. Whitetail has always been I won't say an Achilles heel. I've killed some good whitetail. And I finally broke my 160 curse this year. I finally broke that in Ohio. It's like finally, after 44 years old, I'm able to take an animal that's over 100 or a whitetail that's over 160 inches, and I'm like finally. Finally, it's happened, and here you're hunting key states, but I've always felt like a whitetail, and the Western guys, and I live West, and I put, Western guys, and I am not mean to step on a lot of people's toes, but man, I am a scent freak, I scent control, and those guys aren't. Listen, I want to do anything in my favor that's going to give me the edge on hunting any animal. And I think Western guys don't give whitetail the credit they deserve, because it's virtually impossible to spot and stalk a whitetail in the Corn Belt. You're not going to do it in the deciduous forest back east, Pennsylvania, even in the forests of Ohio and Virginia here or whatever, unless the same thing just happened to me. You have, some rain and their senses are down. And one of the times I was going to a tree stand in the place that I hunted in Ohio 4 years back, and just going into the tree stand, and boom, here's one of the target bucks 20 yards in front of me, and I wasn't even ready. Had I been ready, I probably could have taken that animal. But it's tough. We've done it in Kansas in the Milo, spotting and stalking whitetail that way, but it wasn't a buck that that you're going to say, yeah, I'm going to spot and stalk a boon or anything like that. Was I able to do it? Yes, but it's not easy. it's not easy at all, and I've never done it with a recurve. I've done it with a compound, but it's everything had to be perfectly aligned for all that to happen. And the guys that can do it, they've accomplished something, but I prefer a method of, a lot of guys don't like to say it out west, but I'm sitting in a tree stand. I'm gonna hunt that, and I'm gonna try to cut him off, and pattern that buck. If it's a whitetail, I want to try to pattern that animal, and I'm hunting him out of a tree stand. I want to have every advantage I possibly can because they're tough. Whitetail are tough. They're my Achilles heel for sure. If you want to go and communicate, I'll take anybody out. Well, I shouldn't say that on an elk hunt because I'll get myself.
Sign me up. When you want to go?
Well, it's just easier. You can communicate with an elk. I can communicate with a turkey.
You're
the
absolutely
success
right.
lies. I can't communicate with that.
I told a guy one time. I told a guy after my first out west hunt, I said, elk hunting is easier, and they were like, "What? No, you're stupid, man. You got to hike. You got to do this." I'm like, "Listen, I didn't say physically easier. It's easier because I have more control over the animal. When it comes to whitetail hunting, if they don't come, they don't come. And there's not much you can do about it. If they get hung up in a field at 100 yards, they're hung up in a field at 100 yards, especially here in Kansas where there's absolutely no terrain features, If they're hung up at 100 yards, that's where they're at, and there's nothing I can do about it. If an elk is at 100 yards, let's run down this finger and up that tree line, and we're in his wheelhouse, It just, you're right. It's a complete different kind of hunt. A whitetail hunt is a plan it before, and hopefully they come in hunt. Now, you can't call it spotting and stalking necessarily. I guess you may be able to if you were to argue the right way, but the thing that I want to do next year, this coming year, is to spot earlier in the year with a spotting scope and find where they're coming from, where they're going, and then just walk in, no tree stands, no ground blinds, no nothing, and find cover and just sit back and hopefully they walk by. That
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what I want to do. To just
Right.
get back to that, because you're right. Here in Kansas, it's going to be near impossible to spot a deer and stalk it. But I can get back to the primitive roots of I'm sitting on the ground. I found a tree to hide behind. If they walk behind, I'm going to poke around and shoot it.
Yeah.
No upper hand of tree stand or ground blind or anything like that. Just as simple as I can do it, and that's my goal for this year.
Oh, heck yeah, man. And you hit the nail on the head too. It's like, I look at whitetail as like, and hunting in Kansas, and like, Kansas is frustrating. Oh man, it's like politics. I get frustrated talking about it. Kansas frustrates me because I think I have that buck patterned, and I'm like, yep, he's doing the exact same thing 4 days in a row or 2 days in a row, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going in on the third day and I'm gonna kill him. I don't talk about those hunts. It's whitetail or what I'm looking like. Oh, shiny, and they're like completely like, yeah. Well, he went right to that food source for the past week. Between a 10-minute window time of every evening or every morning. He didn't do that this one day. Why? Was it because I was there? I don't know. Their sense of smell. I mean, an elk's sense of smell is ridiculous as well. But a whitetail is crazy. They're just. I almost feel like their intuition of knowing that. Now, out in Kansas or where they're not like, oh, that's human scent, or this is a scent I'm not familiar with. You know, I think it just depends on where you're at, because I think sometimes they get used to farm equipment, they get used to four wheelers, they get used to certain things, over a period of time, and then it may make it a little bit easier. But as far as patterning them, man, they're tough sometimes. They can be really tough sometimes. And what you say is like, yeah, go in and hopefully I'm on one of the 9 main trails that he's on. He's coming down tonight. So
Yeah, and that's the problem with especially one of the properties I hunt, um, is they can literally come from any direction on any trail at any given time. It's a fantastic property, but it's an impossible property to determine where are they going to come from and on which trail are they going to come from. And I could show you a map and you would quickly understand why, but that's just the nature of the
sure.
beast. And it's one of those
Well,
properties I
sure.
find myself having to remember, because I'll hunt one evening and they all come down one trail and I'm like, I need to move the tree stand over there. And I'm like, wait a second. Yesterday they were coming down this trail right underneath my tree stand. So if I move it, I'm just going to play this constant game of moving my tree stand and never getting on them. So
Right.
I would just encourage you, if you have something like that, to just hang in there. Know that you're set up where you need to be. Know that if I'm just persistent, eventually it's going to come. It's going to happen, and it'll come to a close. But that's also part of why I'm excited to try this more. Primitive, sitting on the ground, sitting in a ditch type hunting, because then if I realize, well, seems like every deer today is coming down that trail, I can get up and walk over and sit behind a different tree, and then just hang
Oh,
tight there the
absolutely.
rest of the day. So that's what I'm excited to try. I'm really excited to do it. It's probably a bad year to start trying to hunt with a recurve and trying to do that at the same time, but why not? I mean,
Could be a little difficult, right? Yeah.
it's going to be a blast. I'll tell you that though, and I
Oh,
promise
100%.
you. And I promise you, if I shoot a fork and horn whitetail, it's going to be a trophy because I did it on the ground, primitive style with a recurve. And that deer will have a full shoulder mount in my house because I'll be pumped up and proud of what I did.
Oh, 100%, man. And what you said earlier on, you use Onyx Max. Well, I mean, one of my partners is HuntWise, and I use that. And utilizing that tool helps you out a lot. But
100%.
if you're only on a a 28 acre, wood peninsula and the rest is ag, you don't know what the farmer is. You don't know. I mean, there's a lot of variables when you're whitetail hunting. There's a lot of variables whenever you're hunting any animal, but knowing your surround. I mean, I'm just getting back to that one point is getting back to knowing how you're hunting, what your hunting is, knowing what your surroundings are and of adjacent or adjoining properties. That's key to success there too, because geez, you don't even know if that buck got blown out by the farmer or he had hunters in there or whatever. There's a lot into it. There's a lot of planning into it, and knowing, what could happen, and things like that. So it's, I don't like the rut. I try to, like, as far as whitetail hunting, I try to do things early when there are things a little more predictable before more boots on the ground start coming in disturbing areas and things like that. And I've learned that over the years that with whitetail hunting for me it's taken me maybe a little longer than what it should have, but I don't hunt whitetail like, some of our partners at bear hunt, the guys over at the hunting public, those guys pound whitetails, but I don't have whitetail where I'm at. I pound elk and bear, so
Yeah.
things like that. But having, having those resources that we have now, you can definitely be able to manipulate the way you hunt, or I guess technology can make you a better successful hunter as well. But getting back to those grassroots is like, my thing is hunting and being able to take that animal and being able to ethically put it on the ground. And I know some people say, well, you hit it back in the anything behind the front shoulder is a bad shot. Well, man, I had a conversation with a guy the other day, and he's like, what's your go-to rifle? And I'm like, I love my 243, but I also use my 300 Rum a lot also. And I said, but I've shot deer, bear, and even elk. And that 243 has done the job, and I've watched them hit the dirt. But I've also shot things with my 300, and I've seen them run out of sight too. So it's unpredictable. But I've also, every animal that I've ever taken, like, not intentionally, we all make bad shots, and I even miss. Everybody misses, but just take for instance that hunt I was just on. Every animal that I've ever hit in that femoral artery, within 30 yards, they're down. I mean, they just don't run. I mean, they can't. Elk. I've hit a cow elk there, like with a recurve. You spook, you hear the bow, it's noisier or whatever. The reflexes of an animal can cause you to have a bad shot. But having said that, it's like expiring that animal is pretty important. I think that's, whether that's a key point on this talk or not, is like I've seen some severe damage on that hindquarter shot.
Yeah. It's the Texas heart shot. But
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
what is
Yeah,
your
for sure.
what is your most memorable hunt, or your favorite trophy up to this point?
Oh my man, I can remember them all like they were just yesterday. I think I would hate to specifically put one out there more than the other, but I tell you, I mean, I could say that this last one that I was just on, because that was the first animal that I've ever taken, a sika, and I took it with a recurve, and I'm pretty stoked about that. There's no joke about it. And it was a great stag. And I was like, wow, this is great. And then I've never killed anything with a crossbow. I've never even shot a crossbow. And Alex like, oh, send you the constrictor. You got to go out here and try this thing out. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, I've never shot one. I've never had no reason to. I can shoot a recurve,
Yeah.
And I killed that 174-inch buck in Ohio this year. And don't get me wrong.
And then
I could care
and then he was singing the praises of Alec. Thank you so much, Alec.
Well, it was kind of funny because I took that in there, and I had one of my buddies set my stand for me, and I've watched this buck since June. I've been watching this buck, and I watched him grow, and we got a great story on this buck. And he was like, "Look, don't take your recurve." I wanted to shoot this buck with Super Kodiak. I wanted to do that really bad. But after I got in there, and he said, you can't take your vertical bow or your recurve in there. It's not going to happen. You need to take your crossbow. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll use it. Once I get in there, I understood why. There's absolutely no room to draw. And I'm like, naturally I am left-handed, but I don't shoot left-handed. So I'm like, you got this thing set up wrong. But I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining. If he's ever going to listen to this podcast, Timmy, I'm not complaining at all.
Hey man, I like to talk bad. I like to talk bad about people and then see if they listen to the show.
Yeah, we get more listeners, right? Drama.
That's how I learn. Like I'll tell stories about my mom or something. If I never hear my mom call me and say, "Why did you say that?" then I know she doesn't listen to my show. And I can talk all I want about my wife because I know for a fact she don't listen.
Well, my wife and I have a lot of conversations. She's like, "When's that going to be aired?" I'm like, well, "What's the matter? You're not going to listen to it anyway or watch it." So,
yeah.
She's like, "Well, we don't have TV." That's a good point. I'm like, okay. But
yeah,
it's
no kidding.
They're all just as equal. I mean, to answer that fairly, they're all just as special to me, Dylan, as any of them. I mean, all of them. I mean, one's a little more valuable maybe, but they're all just special because of like, I did what I said I wanted to do, but I don't think any of them.
Well, that's
take
a super
so.
cop out answer. Let me tell you something.
Yeah. A super cop out. Well, I can tell you what will be my number one if I can ever make it happen is I want to shoot I want that Kodiak that was just built for me. I want to take a Kodiak with it. That's what I want. So once that happens, then I'll say that's my number one. We can talk about another podcast.
Absolutely. That sounds like a stinking plan there. No, I would absolutely. If I can, year 2021, if I can put down a whitetail, with a recurve spot and stock style. I understand. Listen, I'm gonna get an email saying that's not real spot and stock. I understand what I'm saying. But if I can put down a whitetail like that, man, that's again. I don't care if it's a 100-inch deer. That will be, to me, better than anything thus far.
And I'm glad you brought that up because it doesn't matter how you. I'm not against crossbows. I'm not against vertical bows. I'm not against guys shooting. If you're out there hunting and you're doing what you enjoy, who am I to say or to be criticized you to say, "Oh, that's not a true spot"? It's like, come on, seriously. Is this how like-minded outdoorsmen need to treat one another? I don't go for that. I think it's nonsense when you're trying to justify like, "Oh, that's not a true spot and stock." Man, I just beat that animal with a recurve, or I beat it with a bow, or yeah. I mean, hunting with a rifle is what I say maybe a little easier because you can reach out there to 1,000 yards plus and touch them. But
somebody asked me the other day. They said somebody asked me the other day. Said, "You taking your rifle?" I said, "Am I a 12-year-old girl?"
Right.
Sorry, Dad. Yep. Sorry, Dad. My dad's a big rifle hunter. And he always says, "Well, you taking your rifle?" And I'm like, "Well, Dad, what I look like a 12-year-old girl?" And he says, "Well, I shoot more animals than you do, so shut up."
Well, yeah, Dad, there's a reason why you shoot more because I'm not in his wheelhouse when I'm killing this animal. I spotted him.
And the only reason I give him a hard time because it really does drive him insane that he's had 2 reconstructive shoulder surgeries and he could not pull a bow back to save his life anymore. But he did. I'm actually really proud because I was at home for the holidays for Thanksgiving, and I was shooting my recurve off their back deck. They've got like a 15-foot back deck, so perfect for practicing shooting off of elevation. And I
Oh
was
yeah.
shooting my recurve, and he said, well, let me see if I can pull that back. My shoulders are getting better after last surgery or whatever. And he pulled it back, and he said, dude, I think I'll be able to do this again next year. So I'm so excited, man, that he's gonna be able to get back in. I think he's gonna have to shoot like a 40-pounder, 35-pound bow, but I'm so excited that he's gonna be able to get to bow hunt again because it's been killing him that he can't.
Oh yeah, and it's shooting recurve. I mean, I'm I don't know. I just can't express how stoked I am again. It's like, man, this is like, I just feel at home. I just feel at home because it's like, yeah, I love shooting compound. I love growing up shooting IBO and things like that with my compound. And now it's like, hey, I'm right back to where I started. I feel like a kid again almost, and it's
Yeah.
and still having that and I had Ryan run the numbers on my old bow. Came down from my granddad and my uncle, and now I have it, have it back again. But I use that bow, and it's something that not many people can say. But from coming from Ryan, it's like Fred probably made that bow from what the numbers. I mean, it was made like from 56 to 63. I think that was the number that was wrote on it. So just having that is like, and this thing's like, and I'm surprised that it's like in prestige. It's just how I remember it. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
I'm like,
No,
maybe I can
that's
use
insane.
it. Yeah, I mean, so there again, it's like, man, this was meant to be. I'm meant to be back here, and I'm like, I'm not, I'm a hunter. We produce probably more hunting bows sold than any other bow company, right? I mean, I may be off on those numbers, but it's like Bear's been around forever, and
Yeah.
it's just great. And now it's like, man, this that Super Kodiak's way stiffer than my whole bear cub. I just have to say this is like, we chronographed that thing, and that thing is whipping out a what is it? I'm shooting 494 grains off of that thing. I think 494, and
Wow.
like 216. That's what that thing shot through the chronograph. And it's just, I'm like, whoa. It's stupid
It's
fast.
impressive.
Very impressive. Yeah, and my arms are taking a beating. Like, maybe I shouldn't have got this thing, because at full draw, I'm pretty sure it's really close to 70 pounds. I'm like, I don't need that much, but and that may be underweight just a little bit, but I've get perfect air flight, and it's spot on. It's just I'm not gonna change what I'm doing. A lot of people always ask, even with the compound. I mean, I only shoot 404 grains, and I'm killing elk. I'm blowing through elk. I'm killing bison. I mean, I've never been that guy that needed to shoot 700 grains to kill. 400 grains kill anything on North America, anything.
Yeah.
Shot placement is what key. No, I'm not. I'll go back to that. It's like, I mean, anybody's going to be honest with themselves and honest with anybody else is always going to say you're not always going to make the perfect shot. You're out there doing it enough, something's going to happen. I think we've all been in that situation that are out there hunting every day. Something's going to happen. That's just the way it works. So, but on the other side, on the upside is you're out there enough, you're going to have more opportunities, right? So that's how it goes.
Yeah,
also.
you're right. You're right, man.
for sure.
Now, something I always ask everybody, and this has become one of my favorite things in the world to ask, because I feel as though I've grown as a hunter just from hearing them, just from listening to them, learning from them. Share with me a field note that you've learned over the years, man. Something that I can take and put in my back pocket, and just a quick tip that you've been on a hunt and thought, man, I need to remember this for next time.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I think this just goes right down to a success story and a field note that I wasn't taught this, because I mean, growing up, I mean, yeah, I was learning archery and things like this. But what I've learned on myself being out there is, and I've said it all on social media. I've said it wherever I'm out on when we're doing the show and stuff. It's like the biggest thing I think that anybody can utilize in their field notes is knowing your animal. Knowing your animal is going to get you one step closer to success.
Yeah.
Knowing, I mean, they all communicate. I mean, I just talked about that a little bit a while ago. And just take elk for instance, because that's elk and turkey. I love hunting them both. And by any means, I'm not trying to sound like I'm some expert on any of them. I'm not some elk calling champion or anything like that. I don't think there's nobody out there needs to be an elk calling champion or a turkey champion to do what an outdoorsman needs to do. But if you're communicating with an animal, and if you don't have anything to say, why would that animal want to engage with you? I think this is the one field note and one mistake. I think I'm just using elk as an example, but you can take this a step further to any animal that you're hunting. They all have a way of communication, whether it's with scent, with their glands, or whether it's vocal or what have you. If you have nothing to encourage that animal with, you're not going to be successful. And that's what I try to utilize early on. Is a lot of people's like, why are you putting out scrapes for whitetail? I'm like, because I've been defeated before, and I want to know how I can be more successful, because I don't want to sit in that tree stand 140 days and say, I finally killed him. I want to sit in it one day and kill him. That's when I determined that I've made a successful hunt, because what I studied and what I was able to predict worked. Does it always work? No, but it's going to lead me to something else that's going to make me successful for that animal. But the point I'm making now is communicate. Is knowing what to communicate with as a field note. So
Awesome, man.
Maybe I'm giving you a couple more, but I got to say this though, because I think a lot of guys make this mistake, because I get a lot of novice guys asking me, it's like, you were out in the first morning, you just killed this elk. What'd you do that I'm doing wrong, that I've been out here hunting 10 years in a row and I haven't been able to take it? And I'm like, I communicated with him. I had something to tell him,
Yeah.
And a lot of the guys, they're out there just blowing it up. I'm like, that's not what you want to do. If you're able to locate that bull, you want to get him confrontational. Make him confront you. If you get him to engage and you get within his wheelhouse, close the distance. If you think he's 500 yards, you want to be within 100 yards, and then you confront him. Give him a reason to come to you. If he's with cows, give him a reason to come to you. Otherwise, he's like, yeah, that's just Joe. He's nothing, things like that. So, I mean, that's a field note I think a lot of people don't utilize. They just
Awesome, man.
Communication, man.
Yeah,
So.
and that well, and I always bring it back to duck hunting. And I always say, if a duck's flying over you and they see decoys, but they don't hear anything, they're already thrown off. You know what I mean? Because if there's ducks sitting on the water, then they're going to be making noise. They're going to be talking back and forth. So if you've got ducks sitting on the water, you better be talking back and forth. Same with a decoy. If you're hunting over a whitetail decoy, you better make sure that you're making some noise, because those other deer are going to realize that deer isn't communicating with me. And
100%.
Yeah, so absolutely great tip, man. Again, I thank you so much for coming on, man. I thank you for your support of Bear Archery. I'm glad to have you on board, and I cannot wait to finally one day hook up and go on a hunt with you sometime, man.
Heck yeah, well, let's make it happen. I don't know. I got a few guys ahead of you.
I'll trade you a whitetail hunt for an elk hunt. How about that?
Well, I tell you what, let's do it, because I told you whitetail's my Achilles heel. Anything else, like I get frustrated. I get frustrated with
Yeah.
whitetail, but we can do that.
Sounds good, brother.
Just happy to be on board, and happy to be supporting bear archery as well. And I'm looking forward to 2021 season with everyone, and just sharing the like-minded ways of Fred, and I think everybody's really excited to see what bear archery has to put out there in the years to come with the new marketing, with Alec and John and Ryan, with these guys just doing phenomenal jobs. And I know I'm excited. I get excited all the time. So
Yeah, I did
we'll see what
a
everything
podcast
brings.
one time not too long ago, and the title of it was "What Happened to Bear," and
Mm-hmm.
that was it. I was hearing from all my friends like, "Dude, what's going on over there, man? Some, they're coming out with better bows and better marketing and all this stuff like that." And I would just tell you, Bear is nothing is a force to be reckoned with. And so I promise you, if you're not familiar with the stuff they're putting out with, if you're not familiar with the quality, if you're not familiar with all the great bows they have, not only on compounds but recurves, crossbows, bow fishing, I would just say you'll find out soon enough because they're coming.
I agree. And what other company? I mean, I'm not stepping on any toes, but can can Martin say anything about Damon Howard as far as having their Boyer there making the bows? What or any of the other companies that's out there doing it? I mean, Howard's gone, but I mean, Howard was probably one of the most underestimated or under I don't know, clouted guys in the industry. I mean, he was a phenomenal archer for a trad bow. But that was before. I mean, I think he passed. I mean, he passed away in 75 or something. He was born in the late 1800s. So nobody can say like, hey, there's the last living Boyer under Fred, and he's still alive and he's still making bows. So he's doing it
Yeah,
the way Fred taught him how to do it. So I don't think there's anybody else out there in the industry that has that type of legacy to say. And it's like, hey,
right.
it's phenomenal. And I kind of not really got into an argument or anything with somebody, but it's like, you'll never hear, because we were talking. He's like, you went to Bear. You left your Maniac edition with Obsession and went to Bear. And I'm like, yeah, we got big plans. There's big plans coming. And I'm like, he's like, you'll never hear Hoyt and Bear and Matthews in the same breath. And I'm like, give it time. I said, I love when people
Yeah,
eat their words. I love it. I just love it, And I'm like, you guys just don't
man,
understand.
I had a bow shop and not too long ago, and I was kind of in a hurry, and I hate the bow shop, to be honest, because they're a bunch of pricks. But I was going on a hunt the very next morning and needed my redemption set up and tuned in and everything. So I went over there, and they don't sell bear, and they're so stuck up and snobby about what they sell.
Uh-huh.
And I just knew. And he come out after shooting it through paper, and he's like, "Dude, this thing shoots phenomenal." And
Mm-hmm.
almost said it with like he was like almost disgusted by the fact of how good it was. And I was like, "Yeah,
100%.
man, yeah, man, they do," and just smiled and went on my way. But Shane, again, thank you so much for coming on, man. Before we go, I do got to give another quick thank you to our friends over at Wise Eye Technology. They are a cellular trail camera. They produce some incredible cameras, but not only that, they have game recognition technology. So I don't have to look through 1,000 pictures of does and squirrels and coons. It only shows me the bucks I want to see, and it breaks out the bucks I want to see into certain folders based off of that buck. So if I want to look at bucks of if I want to look at pictures of sticks, then I go and look at him, and I can see when he's been there, what moon phases he's been there with, what what temperatures he's been there with, so on and so forth, and it maps all that out for me. So go check out Wise Eye Technology. It caught one of the coolest pictures I've ever seen on a trail camera this year, and that was a hawk scooping up a squirrel. One of the coolest pictures I've ever
Wow.
seen. So I'll make sure and send it to you when we hop off here. Unbelievable.
That's awesome.
It was the coolest picture I've ever gotten. I'll send it to you as soon as we get off. But guys, thank you so much for listening. You guys have a great week and good luck in the late season, because it is one of my favorite times to hunt. So don't neglect the late season. Get out there and hunt. Thanks for listening. You guys have a great week.
Thanks, Dylan.